Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Crane, and I'm the Director of Programming at the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. And you are listening to Global Industry Spotlight, a conversational series focused on providing resources and insight for the creative entrepreneur. We are streaming live out of the Comcast Business Startup Studio, a room designed for Chicago's small business community, located at 2112, Chicago's first music, film, and tech incubator. The Global Industry Spotlight today is on Michelle Breyer, Chief Marketing Officer at SKU, the nation's first CPG accelerator. Michelle joined SKU after spending 20 years in the beauty industry, named one of the 50 most influential people in the multicultural market by Women's Wear Daily in 2015. Michelle Breyer is a visionary entrepreneur who took a personal frustration over her curly hair and built it into the largest social media platform for hair. Numerous hair care brands launched at NaturallyCurly. The company, which grew to include an e-commerce site, a consumer insights division, and an experiential marketing company, was acquired in 2018 by Essence Ventures. Over the past 2 decades, Michelle has consulted with numerous beauty companies to help them develop, position, and launch right products and to create the most effective communication strategies to connect with this valuable consumer. Before launching NaturallyCurly, Breyer was a business reporter with the daily newspapers in Texas and California, focusing on retail, real estate, and consumer products. A year-long special project on the explosive growth of Whole Foods markets won several state and national awards. I'm very excited to talk with her today. Let's bring her into the conversation. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Such an impressive career. Congratulations on your success. As somebody that works for an organization that is building resources for entrepreneurs, it's wonderful to have you on the Global Industry Spotlight to hear a little bit about your journey, to where you are now and building a company and also supporting the sector. But just to get started, can you give us just a little background of kind of your journey into entrepreneurship, and then we'll kind of talk about the work that you're doing right now.
Great. So I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I covered entrepreneurs as a business reporter and loved it and got to interview a lot of really interesting people. But the backdrop is that my whole life I had struggled with my curly hair. And when I moved to Texas from California, I got into conversations with my fellow curly heads at the newspaper, and we were complaining about our hair at a party, and somebody overheard us and was kind of dumbstruck at how we could spend an hour bitching about our hair, and suggested that we start a magazine or a website for people with curly hair. And we were tipsy enough to think it was a good idea. And like lots of entrepreneurial ventures, it was a solution to a problem that we had and something that we were very passionate about. So what didn't seem like a business at the time grew into it because we were kind of the first people out there doing anything like this. And so customers came to us, and the customers began to grow into a very attractive market for the beauty industry. So, it kind of evolved from there. Became a multi-million-dollar business, and then we sold it in 2018.
Wow, that's incredible. Can you talk about some of the barriers you experienced in building the company, and being able to expand, if there were any?
That's funny that you brought that up, because I was just talking with somebody the other day. We had a lot of problems initially raising money. And we had an amazing kind of mentor who had founded Tandem Computers and was a big venture capitalist. And he kind of made introductions to a number of, PE firms and venture firms. And they didn't give us the time of day. And we would come into the one in particular, we were in the reception area, and the receptionist was like, "I love your site. It changed my life. I buy products there all the time." But we couldn't get them to take us seriously. And, other companies that were vaporware, they hadn't even launched anything yet, were getting funded, usually male founded companies.
Right.
So it was very much an old boys club.
Yeah.
And we luckily pitched at an angel event, and our idea, or not our idea, our business resonated with several people in the audience who either had curly hair, knew someone with curly hair. So we got funded, our first funding that way, and raised 3 rounds. But initially, definitely there was skepticism. There was, I think, sexism, different things that prevented us from growing as quickly as we could initially.
And for female founders, do you have any suggestions or, tips in terms of approaching that? Do you feel like that has changed in today's market?
I think there's more resources for female founders now, and like there's entire funds dedicated to female founders. Actually, the 3rd round that we raised, our largest investor was something called Golden Seeds, which is an investment firm just for female founders. So I think that and there's been a lot of really successful companies founded by women. So I think attitudes are changing. And what I would say is just like don't get frustrated, because there's money out there. If you have a product that resonates with people, it's not going to hold you back the way I think it did 20 years ago.
Right. And, fast forward to, can you talk about your work at SKU, a CPG accelerator, and kind of what the focus is or what you see right now in the market?
I was actually recruited to SKU after I had sold my company, and I was consulting and doing some mentoring, and somebody from SKU heard that I was mentoring, and SKU periodically, well, almost every cohort has either a personal care or a beauty brand, but they didn't have any mentors who had worked in the business. So I was recruited to be a mentor. I absolutely fell in love with it. Walked into my first meeting, and it was a complete who's who of founders and business leaders in the Austin community, because at that point it was very much an Austin accelerator. And about a year into it, one of the board members and the executive director came and said, we're expanding, and we need somebody like you who's scaled a business, and would you be interested in coming on? And it was definitely very appealing to me, because I would tell people if I could just mentor full time, that would be the perfect job. So
Right.
I kind of get to mentor full time, and it's so incredibly energizing to be around founders. Like that is, I mean, and all the mentors that we bring in, some of them are from Coca-Cola or General Mills, and they talk about how it's one of the most fun things that they can do, because founders are scrappy and creative and passionate and all the things that we know founders are.
Right.
And that's very, it's very fun to be around.
And what do you think, in terms of an impactful mentor-mentee relationship? Like, how do you approach mentoring, founders, and you see as kind of an effective way to help them?
Well, I think there's 2 things. The founder needs to be completely vulnerable and needs to be very open to hearing advice. I mean, it's hard to hear sometimes that your baby is ugly, but you have to be able to, and we have had founders in SKU who are really defensive and really don't want to take the advice from these founders, which they probably shouldn't have gone through an accelerator program.
Right.
Your mentors are really there. A good mentor is there really to guide you, to help you. We do encourage our mentors to be very empathetic and to understand that telling someone their baby is ugly is probably not the best approach, but guiding them and providing help in the areas they need it. And a lot of times that's making connections to other people that can help them, like almost being a cruise director.
Right.
So you're really, and we tell our founders, like, you've got to be completely naked. You have to be willing to show all of your warts, all of the issues. It may be that you're running out of cash. It may be that, whatever it is, or maybe a lawsuit, whatever it is, like, you're not going to get effective mentoring if your mentor doesn't understand what's going on with your business. So
Right.
I think sometimes founders want to paint their business in the best possible light when they're going into an accelerator or incubator, and that may really prevent you from getting the help that you need.
Yeah, I've spoken to other accelerators, one in particular that's based actually out of Slovenia, and
Wow.
they're very it's Seed, which is actually, I think, a global organization, And they're also very particular about being honest, right? Like if you come into this program, we're going to be very honest, and it's really to help you grow. But like you said, no one wants to like hear that, you know, their business plan is not the best, or there's some things wrong with the product, or some adjustments that need to be made. And, you know, kind of jumping back in terms of, you know, you being the beauty industry expert, what have you seen in terms of a shift in the market from when you started your company, and kind of new companies that are now trying to make it in that particular industry?
Because of the huge successes, whether it's Shea Moisture was acquired for $1 billion, or a good friend of mine started a company, I, I met her when she had 3 products and she just sold her company for $50 million.
Wow.
I think that there's a lot of interest in the beauty industry right now, because especially female founder-led companies, because they have been so successful, because the profit margins are so high usually on these products, and they see the potential to make a lot of money. You walk into a Sephora, and so many of the hottest companies are female founded brands, indie brands.
Right.
So I think that people are realizing, the large companies, the Estee Lauders, the L'Oreals of the world, are having to compete with these indie brands. And a lot of times they're just buying the indie brands because they know they can't be the indie brand, and that the customer wants these indie brands. So I think there's a lot of, investment dollars out there for beauty brands, and a lot of potential for people in the industry who have really good, unique ideas.
Yeah, and so what you're saying is that, you know, when you were starting your company, there wasn't as much indie brands in the
Hardly at
market.
all.
Yeah, it was just a couple of like major.
In my industry, in curly hair, there was really, number one, no curly hair products, but it was basically the big brands, the L'Oreals and the Suaves and the companies that you'd heard of. Now, if you go to a Target and you look at the shelves, so much space is dedicated to these brands, which many of them started on our Curl Mart, that are now kind of dominating more and more space on the shelf, because that's what's selling.
Yeah. And when, you know, the companies enter the accelerator program, can you walk us just kind of a brief overview of what that looks like, you know, for companies that are interested in checking out, you know, your work?
So actually, we're in our final phases, picking the cohort for the Dallas track, which starts in August. And the process was, first people had to fill out a pretty intense application process, which included, attaching your business plan and your financials and all kinds of information about your company. And from that, we choose 15 to 20 companies to go through the interview phase. And that will be happening next week. And we have our mentors on those calls, and they are, asking all kinds of questions. Each of the founders, presents their company, and then the mentors, interview them. And then from those interviews, we select the final cohort. But that can be pretty intense too, when you have these leaders in the industry who are really drilling down on, your product and your market potential. I mean, we have them from all different areas. We have people who are operations experts, or maybe other successful founders, or their specialty is branding, and each one is coming at it. It's like that analogy. If you're, people who were blind and were feeling different parts of the elephant, and each one had a different perception of what that company was, or that elephant was,
Right.
based on their expertise. And that is very helpful for us as we're deciding that final cohort.
And how many people are in the cohort?
Typically 6 to 7 brands.
Okay.
So
And how long is
go on.
how long is the program?
12 weeks.
The 12-week program. Okay.
Yeah, and it culminates with, in fact, tomorrow is our showcase premiere for our Atlanta cohort, and it's a virtual showcase, so anyone can go onto YouTube and watch it. But we have the premiere tomorrow, where you can see each of the brands' pitches. And I don't know whether we want to provide the link, but it's going to be, it's a really good representation of what SKU does, because the pitch is not just about learning how to present a pitch. When you're creating a pitch, you're having to know everything about your business. You need to understand, kind of what your story is, what solution you're providing for what problem, what is the size of the market, who are your competitors, what is your marketing plan, what kind of traction do you have? And to understand all of that is really very, very useful, beyond useful for a company. And they may not, they've created a product, like they may have a really good product, but they have never really had to sit there and determine really who are they as a brand and where are they going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I think that's such an important work and helpful work, for companies to go through that process. So I would encourage our listeners to check out SKU and see kind of what they're doing in terms of, the accelerator program. I wanted to ask you just a couple more questions. One being, as you were building your own company, are there particular moments that, that you felt kind of shifted you into a new dimension of, or someone helped you out, or I'm just thinking for, so entrepreneurs who are building their business, were there certain moves that you made that really helped, kind of expand what you were working on?
I'd say when we got this amazing advisor who turned into a mentor, who turned into an investor, that
Right.
was a huge moment for us, because he was so helpful in helping us really think of our company as a business. And I remember he had us come over to his house where he had a boardroom and whiteboards, and basically was asking, like, how are you going to get to $1 million? How are you going to get to $2 million? And we're like, $1 million? Are you crazy? And he got us to think bigger.
Yeah.
And, even things like we were sending out newsletters, we weren't monetizing those newsletters because we didn't even think that that was something possible.
Right.
And having somebody kind of help us think in a different way was so valuable.
Yeah, I mean, and it's great too that you are the mentor, you are that person, you are that advisor, who's helping those companies, grow and asking them the right questions. From our experience, at CC in 2112, that is probably the most valuable asset that we have in the community, is the mentorship and the network that people can tap into and learn and ask certain questions and get pushed a little bit of, are you thinking growth? What are you thinking about? Here are some of the ways that you can monetize things that you're not monetizing.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully not helping people not make mistakes that you made. Whether it's so many times people don't understand the importance of cash. Like you have to have working capital, and
Right.
you may be profitable, but still not have working capital. And you get a big contract from Target and you think that's the best thing in the world. Well, it could put you out of business if you're not prepared, because you have to understand like the terms that Target has, and how much inventory are you going to have for them, and do you have the financial ability to create all the inventory knowing you're not going to get paid for 60 or 90 days. Like a lot of times, if you don't have somebody helping you along who's been through it, who can really provide that kind of invaluable information, I mean, it can put you out of business.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, right? If Target were to knock on someone's door and say, hey, we were interested in selling your product, you would have that idea of, I made it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What you're saying is, well, hold on for a second. Look at what you really have to do and what that means for your business.
Yeah. I mean, we had a company who went through one of our programs last summer, and she was talking about she just got into a big retailer, and she did not understand that there might be terms that, like, she didn't even know what terms were. And she had not asked them how long it would take them to pay, and she was going to have to create a lot of inventory. I'm sorry, there's somebody at our door, but
Oh, no,
she's
it's
going
fine.
to have to create a lot of inventory, and she did not have the working capital to do it.
Right.
But so, luckily she had some really good mentors who really helped her think through that process of, you know, she didn't have a relationship with a bank. She she hadn't thought through all of those things.
Right.
So it was just really, really important to have somebody walk her through everything. And in the end, she was able to get the working capital and able to get into this retailer, which was kind of a game changer, but she hadn't initially created the foundation to do it successfully.
Yeah, well, Michelle, this has, been just a great kind of conversation and learning about your work. And we're also happy to hear that mentorship and all these things are thriving, and that there are supports systems out there for founders, female founders, for businesses, to grow their work. And it's great to also have someone like you who obviously trailblazed her own path. And so other people have seen that you have done it, and they're like, well, maybe I can do this too. And I think that's really important, even being a female founder, for that industry. So again, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today, and kind of share some of your knowledge. I'm going to put just a link below. This is Michelle's LinkedIn. It's also her website. You can check out SKU as well. A really interesting organization that is doing important work for our startup communities. And just one clarification for SKU, it is focused just in CPG brands, correct?
Yeah, but that's a wide range of brands. It could be
Right.
everything from smartphone cases, clothing,
Mhm.
boots, like, as well as food and beverage and beauty brands.
Great. Well, Michelle, thank you again.
Thank you.
Wow, what a great conversation, and an honor to have her, Michelle, here on Global Industry Spotlight, a successful female founder who solved a problem and was able to grow her business, who is now giving back to the community and supporting founders through SKU. It was great to hear about her journey and some of the work and some of the things that, that when you are scaling your business, you need to be thinking about. How sometimes, like the example of, the Target contract, you need to look over and make sure that you can cover that and make that happen. Again, my name is Daniel Crane. I'm the Director of Programming at the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, and this was another episode of Global Industry Spotlight, a conversational series focused on providing resources and insight for the creative entrepreneur. We are streaming out of the Comcast Business Startup Studio, located at 2112, Chicago's first music, film, and tech incubator. Thank you to Comcast Business and Shure for providing the tools necessary to make our programming possible. Visit cceglobal.org to register for free workshops offered by our partners and ourselves. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, and please reach out and let us know if you have any questions or there are things that you want to know. I'm wishing everyone a great rest of the day, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.